About to send it into the wolf pack, into the wolf den, and see if trees can grow out of it is the best way I'm going to describe this matchup. Completely horrible, just like myself as a person. But we've also got Skimmy and Jubes to pull me out of the hole, pull me out of the cave, and hopefully brighten up everyone's day.
Jubes? Where's Jubes?
Where's Jubes? What?
Said Skimmy and Jubes. That's
Did
alright,
I?
I'll take it as a compliment.
Did I say Rusty? I said Rusty. Look,
No, it's a compliment. It's a
clip
compliment.
it, check it. Look, we were saying before just how much we all love Jubes. How
Wait, that
handsome the
means
man
you're
is.
going to get compliments all day, Rusty.
Yeah.
That's a good thing to be called Jubes.
I could handle
Surely.
the compliments, I think, more than Jubes can, because I could just smile and ignore everything. Jubes shuts down completely.
Well, when you do that with your arm, your muscles really pop, your biceps. Have you been working on those?
I'll be very capable of not raising my arms for the rest of this segment now. Thank you. I am so aware of that now.
Oh, mate, those teeth, that smile really gets me going. Anyway, moving forward, Direwolves and Legacy. Just stop smiling. I'm sorry. We've got Direwolves and Legacy coming up. And Direwolves, they finally managed to get a win on the board. And Legacy is still hunting for their first one. There is a bit of a change in roster for Legacy, but we'll get to that shortly because we're looking at Direwolves first. Of course, you've got Shock Only, Gunkrab, Cupcake, and Claire, who've got a whole world of experience on this lineup, but unfortunately, that has not converted to wins just yet.
Yeah, that experience is good, but it's not getting them across the line, and it does make you wonder if they have too many cooks in a situation where they haven't been practicing in the offseason. Again, I'm speculating with this, but like it doesn't seem like they came in by any means with the form that these players left the previous year playing League of Legends in. Claire, of course, has been role swapping, so I'll give him some credit where it's due there. He's learning an entirely new role. Shock has been by far the best performing member on this team, and Cupcake, to be frank, his only good game so far has been this one on the Thresh. Because otherwise, he's been getting caught out of position a whole lot and has been getting exposed by these other players. And new players, old players alike, have all been shutting Direwolves down.
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of it has been a bit of a disconnect in terms of communication, right? Very different ideas as to what they're looking to try and do. You know, unsynchronized teleports to try and connect and collapse, or just fights on different avenues that just have not gone their way. And, you know, there's no denying the skill and the potential and the experience that this team have. And you know that there is an ability to get there. It's a case of how quickly can they get there, right? Because if you look at the OPL, that was a 2-month split. This one is only a month. So, you know, the pressure really is on. And I'm sure all these players and teams know it, right? You don't want to pile that on, but that is the reality of the situation, is you don't have time for your members to, you know, role swap or really come into their own. You need to hit the ground running straight away. Otherwise, you start to see situations like Peace and Pentnet where they pull away from everyone.
And you don't want that, do you? No. But, you know, Skimmy, you were asking me earlier who is the funniest player on Direwolves, which I thought was completely weird. But fortunately enough, we have a video of Direwolves telling us who the funniest player is.
The funniest member to me on Direwolves is actually Cupcake. It might surprise people because outwardly he's really serious, but when the kind of barrier falls down, he's really funny. Yeah.
I would say the most fun member would probably be Shock. He's got a lot of jokes and memes up his sleeve, and it kind of helps when we're loading into the game and we just have these like inside jokes. Yeah, he makes the game a lot more fun when it needs to be, but he can obviously still bring the serious element. So
yeah, I think it's Shock. He likes to crack jokes. He keeps it lighthearted a lot. He's a pretty funny guy, to be honest.
Yeah, well, I kind of think it's me, but I don't want to say it's me, you know?
It goes full circle.
Got
It was me all along. Thank you, guys.
I've worked with Shock before. I coached him for a whole year, and I can honestly confirm that he has maybe the best dry humor that I've worked with on a player, because he just says things so spontaneously that are hilarious. Like, it's not a edge of your seat, everything's funny, but when he drops a piece of humor, you actually just lose it. So he's very funny.
Well, there you go. So maybe we should get him on the desk sometime, because we can turn this show into a comedy, maybe. Because you're pretty funny yourself, Rusty. You know, you always crack jokes.
Oh, there we go.
You just get me laughing.
So wrong.
That's
just so
what do you
wrong.
mean? How's that wrong? Anyway, something else that is wrong is Legacy not getting a win yet. So let's have a look at Legacy and try to figure out why the hell this keeps happening to them. Because they've got a solid looking lineup. Interesting though, who's that at mid?
It's a
Yeah,
big
it's going to
change,
be
hey?
why not Skimmy? He's going to be playing mid.
Yeah, it's a big change up. And funnily enough, actually, he was a jungler for the Dire Cubs last year, right? So this is a familiar roster, or familiar territory organization, if you will. But a big change up in terms of what he's strongest at. He's going to be coming in as the mid laner today. Gets his big call up to the big league, so big congratulations to him. But it's going to be interesting to see, given the fact that we've already seen these weird, wacky picks come out from Legacy, what he brings into an off-roll as well.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what we will get from Why Not, who, to be very clear, is very off-rolled. What we do know, and I can say this from just seeing his clips that he constantly posts, is that he plays a lot of Kiana jungle, and Kiana is a mid laner. So I have my hopes up that we'll get to see Kiana mid today. She is one of the most exciting champions in League of Legends to actually be a viewer of, so it will be very exciting. Aside from Why Not, that we can't say too much towards, we don't want to see any more of the Azir top lane. I think I speak for everyone when I say that. It has failed massively both times that we saw it. And while Sybil actually looked very good on the Viego, I think he can stick to that wheelhouse of Viego at least. But he needs to work with what is the occasional int Curzio in mid lane to try and find less int, more success. Because he looks amazing or he ints, and that legitimately has happened in every game.
Well, unfortunately, Intercurzio is not here today. But, man, at least we're not going to see a cat ban, so that'll leave cat open to be picked, unfortunately.
Well, you probably just swap it out from a cat to a Kiana instead, right? So it just goes from one random wild flex to another, and it just keeps, the opposition, maybe even keeps their own coaching staff on their toes, right? So, what are we actually going to play today? But I think, really, if you were to package these two teams together, it's a combination of experience in different areas, but also just a lot of early game strength. They've always started off these games fantastically. They've always showcased that they have what it takes, but it's a mid to late game breakdown where a single mistake costs them dearly, and then suddenly that goal balance swings completely the other way and becomes irrecoverable by that stage. So I'm very curious to see when those two teams get pitted up against each other, what kind of madness it descends into.
So far, I just want to point out, we've had a whole lot of Infernal Souls. We've got 26 Infernal Drakes coming into everything that's going on. And we saw another one to kick off the day. I think the Infernal Soul was the first game of the day, and then in the second one, what do we have? Cloud?
I think second was Mountain.
We had Infernal Soul.
We had Infernal Soul in game 2. I think first one was Mountain.
Mountain in the first one. Well, there you go.
The other way around, mate.
But we've had a whole lot of Infernal Drakes, which is interesting because, as you heard from the other interview earlier with Pabu, is they love to get the Infernal Drakes, the Infernal Souls coming around, because he's like, get out of here with your Ocean Souls, get out of here with your Mountain Souls. Although, when you do have that heavy-looking team comp, the Mountain Soul really just helps out that little bit more. So, I want to take bets of what kind of soul are we going to get into today's match, into match number 3.
It's going to be a Cloud Soul 100% now because we've just jinxed it. I don't know, it's weird with the Souls, right? Because it feels like the pacing on the games is so much so that you want to have an Infernal Soul. If you're getting the first dragon at the 5-minute mark and you're just putting it on cooldown ever since then, it puts you in such a situation where you're like, cool, we can look just, end the game based off that. But I think there have been times where, you can get an Ocean Soul, and it just doesn't merit the value that it used to, where you just had insane regen because it's, not these 40-minute fiestas where games have these prolonged 2-minute fights. I'm not sure. I'd be keen to hear Rusty's take on this. there you go. There's Rusty. He does it all. He talks for me as well.
He was thinking intently there.
I have two things that I'll say. I think what I'll say is that this game we will have a soul.
Cool.
Secured. Not just, which soul will it be. But I don't know which soul. I'm just going to say Cloud. Because
well,
I don't know.
I know nothing about that because gingers don't have souls, but some people that do have souls are probably over there with Nat on the sidelines. I think that's Winter and Shock you have down there.
Yeah, I don't even know how to react to that one, Mac, but I am joined by Winter and Shock. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. Shock, I'll start with you. How are you guys feeling? It's your first 3-day week. Well, obviously it is for everyone, but how are the energy levels? How are you guys managing it down there in the Direwolf camp?
I think everyone's really eager, obviously, to get some more wins on the board because the season hasn't started the way we wanted. But I think everyone's pretty confident we can turn it around. So yeah.
How is the synergy developing for you guys? Is it a lot harder than you expected, or is it something that is finally, getting its feet underneath it?
I think it's something we're going to improve on a lot. We had a lot of like problems at the start of the split, like we changed junglers, and also like Claire's been role swapping. So there's a lot of like things for us to overcome, but I do have like a lot of faith in everyone that we're gonna pick it up from here.
Of course. And Winterer, how are you guys feeling over at Legacy, being your third day this week?
We're feeling pretty confident right now, even though we haven't won any game yet. Every game was pretty close, so we're ready to hunt Direwolves tonight.
How is it now feeling in the team that you've got Why Not on mid lane instead of Incursio?
Well, tonight, Incursio is quite busy with his family stuff, so he couldn't attend, but I believe Why Not is able to shut down Shock easily.
Alrighty, well, I mean, it looks like it could be a little difficult to shut down Shock. You do have, you know, some of the best stats on your team, Shock, but are you performing as you expected, or are you hoping to have even better stats and better games?
I think I've done pretty well so far, and I think I'm by far the best mid, so if they want to shut me down, they better bring more than one mid laner, maybe 2 or 3, could be enough. And we'll see.
I love that confidence. What about you, Winter? You also have some pretty good stats, but how are you playing compared to your own expectations?
Well, I don't really care about anyone except Shock, so we bring like 3 top laners. I can deal with you.
I love it. Unfortunately, we can't have that many people on the Rift. But before I go, Shock, I have been asked to ask you for your best joke, as you were pretty, you know, widely voted the funniest Direwolves member. So please let us know your best joke.
Best joke? Well, it's kind of putting me on the spot. Maybe
It
my
is, I'm
solo queue
sorry.
ranking right now. Yeah, it's not too good.
I mean, that is really unfortunate to hear, but you did make everyone in the talent lineup laugh. So thank you both so much. Good luck, and we'll see who ends up being the best mid laner or top laner.
Alright, thank you.
Thank you.
I bet she's silver.
There you
I
have
bet
it.
she's
There it
silver.
is.
Which is still one
You're
rank
gonna
better than me.
silver.
It's alright. So I can't talk. Anyway, good job, Shock. That was a pretty good response for being put on the spot there. And look,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I really wanted that because obviously
Yeah.
he got voted as the funniest guy on his team. So I thought he could be, you know, ready at any given moment. And of course he was.
I think it was well appointed. I'll give him that one. That was a good little self-depreciating joke that I enjoyed.
Well, it's a good way to go, you know, not putting anyone else down, just put yourself down instead. Now, before we get into the predictions, which we are going to get into right now, which way have we lent with this one?
Thanks, man.
Are we getting it?
I'm getting mixed messages here. I'm
Let's
getting
pull up
mixed
these predictions.
messages.
Let's go. Let's come on. Oh, we're pretty split.
Ooh.
Okay, 50-50.
Hello, Mac. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm going for something crazy again, you know, even though there's a big chance. This is also before I knew Incursio wasn't playing today. But even so, you know, I'm a man of my word. I'm going to go with it, roll with the punches. And if Legacy still don't have a win after today, something's going on. Something's going on. Something needs to change.
Look, Mac, before Rusty even continues that Legacy conversation, I just want to talk to you a little bit about Direwolves. And I just want you to know that the day they win, I'll be known as a hipster because I've believed in them every single time. I've always been there saying they have the potential, they have the talent, they have the opportunity. It's not come together. It's not been clean. It's not been the prettiest, but it will happen eventually. So, you know, mark the date, stamp the VOD. Nat was there. She believes she's on the hype train.
That's the day they pay your bills, Skibby. That's why we're evening out
Rusty.
the odds here. 2
All there,
Legacy,
Rusty.
2 Direwolves.
Oh, you, Rusty. Go ahead, mate.
I just did it, mate. Don't worry about it.
There is it. Oh, Skibby goes for this team, so I had to go the other. There you
I
go.
said they bloody pay your bills.
Quality
That's very different.
I will say quickly, I'll jump in before I head off, that Rusty and Jubes are actually tied for predictions, but where Rusty's gone Legacy, Jubes has gone Direwolf. So this game is going to put one of them ahead of the other and in the lead of all of us as well because, yeah, I mean, to be tied like at the end of week 2 is pretty good, and now to differ, it's going to be a really interesting matchup just for us as well.
Well, there you go. Let's see who ends up at the top of the food chain after this game. I guess we'll find out. And thank you very much, Nat, for joining us. We'll see you after the game. Now, time for Champ Select. It's getting real close. Do you think... Look, this is usually the fun part because you got Incursio and you're like, oh, wow, we're going to get to see if there's cat or if it's banned, and then we all get sad. So maybe this time it's if Direwolves have the info that we are potentially going to see some Kiana, and if that one gets banned. What are your thoughts on that?
I have no idea what we're going to see. Because you say this is the exciting part, I agree. Because it's just such a wild card draft that we're about to have, because we have no idea. You know, again, why not's a jungler? Will he play a jungle champion mid? Will Sybil, who is a very good support player or mid lane player, perhaps he plays mid champions, and we could do all the kinds of swaps that you never expect. So imagine being Direwolves in this situation, Mac.
Well, imagine. But you don't have to imagine too much longer, because we're about to find out what champs are going to be played. It is time for Champ Select. Legacy and Direwolves coming up right now.
Well, here we go, Rusty. Direwolves up against Legacy, as we see. And there is the Kiana ban. You had to imagine it was going to come on out. If he's known for the pick, then why not? We'll have that removed from the board. It's Legacy to a T. They always have one champion that guarantees it, as they now hover the Katarina for their missing mid laner.
A little bit of fun will happen here from Winterer with the hover. I would love to see it locked in, and why not just to play the ego battle, but at the same time, let's take stock of what actually exists. Kiana ban, like you mentioned, yes, a very important ban. The Thresh lock-in, actually, you know, we've seen 2 blue side Thresh bans so far tonight. This is the first time we haven't seen them ban it. They picked it. We've spoken about this a few times already. Is very good into Rel. Basically ruins Rel's laning phase. She cannot use her W because Thresh will flay you out of that one. So laning phase should be a breeze now. It also opens up the possibilities of Gunkrab playing Aphelios, which is one of his favorite champions, and Aphelios Thresh is one of the strongest lanes in League of Legends right now.
Yeah, they paired it together. Aphelios as well as Jinx as the bot lane combination here for the Direwolves. So definitely something they're familiar with, but Legacy going to run it straight back in with what their bot lane is, the Rail combined with the Kaiser. Kaiser just continues to be the strongest champion right now in terms of if you're looking at an AD carry. You know, it's found the most success in terms of kills and just ability to make things happen right now, which seems to be the main narrative we're going for. Quickly touching on some of the bans that Legacy went for. They did ban away the Syndra as well as Only's Olaf as well. So now we get to see what the response is from Direwolves as both bot lanes, once again, another game, both locked in the first 4.
And Thresh does open up a lot of possibilities, you know, like even the Lee Sin who could engage and then have a lantern to disengage.
Yeah.
It actually makes picking champions. I'll use Jarvan as an example, but we'll acknowledge that it's banned. It's like if you engage on a no mobility carry like a Jinx, you've got the lantern again to keep you to safety. So it makes engaged champions that Legacy may want to draft, which would make sense with a Kai'Sa Rel composition, harder to execute, and perhaps that's why we're starting to see some deviation here. Or perhaps why not just playing one of the 2 champions that he knows? We don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say at this stage. Definitely don't see Jace too commonly, but I do want to quickly touch on the initial 3 picks here from the Direwolves. This is pretty much the exact same comp that they ran into Pentnet, minus the fact that comp got heavily countered by Parbu's Jarvan, hence why Jarvan's being banned away. It's not a conventional ban, you'd have to say, but I think one that they've looked from a VOD review session and must have said, hey, that gave us a ton of headaches, so remove that one away for sure. Orianna now taken off the board. Another controlling mage, another pocket pick, another go-to here for Shock. And as you already touched on, Rusty, you know, he has been the standout player right now. He really has been getting it done with the damage.
Yeah, 36% of his team's damage, 6% more than any other mid laner, I believe, as well, which is absurdly high in terms of damage output. And only, unfortunately, is the one who has been suffering the losses of damage percent as a result of Shock stepping up to the plate. And already you've seen the Syndra ban, the Ori ban. They're going to take a 0 away from him as well. They are actually starting to limit the champion pool of Shock, looking towards what he could play. We were speaking about this before earlier, Skimmy, but we'd like to see some flexible champions. Now, I don't know if we'll see that with a Gragas already here, but we would really like to see things more like the Akali to start to come out, you know? Instead of just forcing Claire under Karma, where he has been underperforming, give some flexibility through draft, some options that they can put between both solo laners.
Yeah, the double flex, it's what we've seen Claire do in the past on previous rosters, where he's had the ability to almost make top lane feel very similar to how mid lane can. And no doubt. It's a identity that they're still going to be running back with, looking to try and change the same comp, but showcase what it can do on another time. The Kazakhs band for me is one that's quite interesting, not one that we've seen too commonly recently, but definitely one that can catch out people much the same way as Jarvan, minus a little bit less of the CC, but the Galio continues to be a mainstay here in the LCO.
Yeah, but a blind Galio opens up this, and this is free real estate now for Direwolves draft-wise. Lucian into Galio ruins Galio. You run Cleanse, there's nothing he can do to lock you down. You can just be oppressive and very aggressive in the way that you play. Looking at what goes with that, they've gone for the Liliad around the composition out here as well, so some strong magic damage, good mix, good engage, lots of lane priority as well coming out of the draft that they have. We just await to see what that final pick will be here from Legacy to try and round out the comp. The answer is another 80 carry.
80 carry, there is the Kindred. Finally, does make its stand here in game number 3 of Friday. And what do we think about this one? I suppose you're looking at right now a lot of damage that can come out from a physical department, but the fact is, you know, that is a safety net with the ultimate to try and prevent the all-in that Direwolves are clearly trying to set up here.
Yeah, it was picked into Gragas though, which can ruin a Kindred ult in its entirety. In saying that, it is a top lane Gragas that we're looking at. The thing that I want to bring up first and foremost here though is Wynot is currently the Kindred. So it does look like Wynot is going to be the one jungling today for the side of Legacy, while Sybil is playing the Jace, and I would assume then he'll be going into the mid lane. But because Winterer has the Galio, and what we know about Winterer is he was a mid laner.
He was.
We can Illuminati Da Vinci Code our way to saying he's mid lane, Sybil's top Jace. Legacy have done a bunch of weird stuff.
Unbelievable flexing across the show right now as to what they can try and achieve. And I mean, who knows? Is this going to be a case of them outplaying their opponents with confusion, or is it going to be more so a case of themselves not being comfortable enough on the roles that they need to play? Regardless, I'm very keen, very curious, and very excited to see what can take place. Obviously, you touched on the Kindred. The Lamb's Respite can get countered there by the Gragas to knock them out, but I think a lot of that value, especially in skirmish opportunities, is going to be to deny those massive Lilia Lullabies.
Absolutely. Of course, you can see the finished compositions here. We've spoken about the crazy swaps and differences that we're seeing out of the Legacy composition. Looking at Direwolves, we've spoken about a lot of the aggression that they can have through laning phase. The one thing that really hits this home is the Jinx and the Thresh. If they can get rolling, they'll be crazy. And if you look at the number of AD carries in total in this game, there's about 5. So snowballing is a significant deal. You know, if a tank snowballs, maybe unkillable. If a carry snowballs, because there are so many carries on both teams, they'll be doing significantly more damage, and they can snowball the game themselves through dueling. So there's a lot of pressure, I would say, here on getting an early lead or just getting a lead.
And it feels to me like, given the fact that there is so much AD in this game, that, you know, once again, kind of like what we just saw in that previous match with Order and Pentanet, that, you know, if you do get a small victory, you can siege exceptionally well. You can just snap your fingers and end the game in a heartbeat. We're going to jump into it finally. Here we go. Direwolves taking on Legacy. It's a battle to understand which team can finally break their slump. And for Legacy, can they get an all-important victory?
And we can only hope that the slump gets broken. We do not want to see 2 crazy games, or like one big crazy game rather, where both teams are both underperforming, you know? We want to see a deserved victory here. That is the key fact that I think we should be looking at more than anything else. Legacy through the early path, and you can see they're looking at the blue buff right now as their start of choice. Wynot's first time playing in a professional league is someone we'll be very excited to watch as it goes.
And we do have Coach Farmer on standby here from the Direwolves. So I want to welcome you back in, first of all, just by asking the most obvious question, which is how much does this shake things up when you're going into a team like this that have you know, flexed in so many different areas? Do you feel like it's more of a hindrance for yourself, or more the burden goes on towards them?
Well, I think that these players aren't really comfortable on any of these flex positions, to be honest. But yeah, we definitely had to prepare a lot more than we had originally anticipated because of the last-minute swap. I definitely need to give my eyes a break after that. So yeah, I hope. Yeah, I think it'll work out. I think the draft went exactly as we predicted. So yeah.
I have a question for you as well, just quickly, Farmer, while we're talking about swaps. Is this something that you have considered with Shock and Claire, both of course being mid laners in seasons past, and Shock has been notoriously able to flex? Is this something you've considered?
I can't give too much away, but yeah, we've considered anything that can give us an edge in that regard. Yeah.
I'm curious as a final question here coming into this one. We see that Shock is really pumping up damage right now, about 36%, I believe, is what Rusty mentioned in that regard. Is that a case of more the burden going on towards him, or just the team as a whole right now not really finding their moment to really impress, as the record currently suggests?
Shock's just a really reliable player. I think that a lot of his stats got blown up way high after that last game, the game against Mammoth. I think he was the highest ranked CSPM mid in the world or something like after that. So I think that he is really reliable, but it's pretty early in the season, and I think the stats will change to in a lot of ways as it goes on, basically.
I'm excited to see what that looks like. Thank you for your time. And Rusty, as we're talking there, a ton of action. Well, it happened, and it's still looking like it's happening as Sybil is going for a cheeky trade to try and take out only. But thankfully for him, Claire is in the way. But break down what you did get to see, if we even get a chance to see it.
Winter is also teleported in here with his Predator boot, so they're looking to take down Claire. We'll see how he goes, Skivvy. There's been a lot happening.
Certainly has been. 2 kills so far for the face of Direwolves, as Claire looks to be the next focal target. The passive goes out, it's not to be enough. Sybil doesn't have enough mana to go for the empowered shock blast on towards Claire, and that is a disaster. But the fight doesn't stop there, Rusty. No, it doesn't. It continues from top side all the way through to bottom river, and a complete polar opposite of what we saw in our previous match.
So to give like a soft recap on what's happened so far, there was a blue buff with Leash start from Legacy, where Why Not went from his blue, did some camps, but not a lot, went to the enemy blue buff and tried to find him. So level 3, of course, he comes in here. They go to the Wolf camp, where Why Not wins the trade, but he doesn't have first move in either of his solo lanes. You can see Shock gets here significantly faster. Claire is already here as well. And yes, he gets the flash off, he gets the smite, but Winter is committed. So instead of just flashing away straight away here, Winterer, he stays, he goes down, and then that opens the gates for Why Not to follow with him. And Sybil has spent most of this time with a wall between him and his opponents, just thinking, what do I do? Turns into Elise and tries to make some ganks happen, and just utter chaos, really, in that situation, where what you could have just done is disengaged.
Well, certainly couldn't disengage, but for the Direwolves, they're going to be very happy about that one right now, because you talked about it already. A very heavy AD composition, a comp that can definitely snowball out of control, and right now you're finding that one. The main man in mid lane, Shock, does find himself a kill and an assist, but also it is only getting himself snowballed ahead very early on too. And a champion like Lilia, well, we know what it can do. It can roam topside with a blue buff and cause all kinds of problems right now, as Claire looks to try and get himself a kill on the ball, looks to try and take out Sybil, but still has other ideas, and flashes away to safety.
Yeah, and I mean, so far exceptional for Direwolves in the way that not only did they handle that well, of course there was a lot of chaos that followed afterwards. Why Not immediately goes to bot side scuttle. There's a lot of contests here and there, but I think the poise of Direwolves has held true in this game so far. The experience that we spoke about being a major difference between these teams is proving to be very useful as they grow CS leads. You know, they get extra ganks off, and they start to find themselves in this position where they have a lot of power and a lot of potential.
Certainly do, and it's interesting to break down sort of some of this potential conversation that you talk about, right? Because if you're looking at their early game rating, in terms of how strong they've been with dragon control, with farming, how well they'd be predicted to, right, at the 15-minute mark to win this one. Both Legacy as well as Direwolves have been sitting around the middle of the park, but it's when it comes to mid to late game, which is the narrative we're running here, it all seems to fall apart. And that's what I'm curious about right now. Given the fact that Direwolves have found this strong early lead, what do Legacy have to try and bounce things back?
I mean, frankly, if we're contrasting both teams, they both fall apart in mid to late game, right? So it is very curious to watch them both play and see who can really find themselves the most. Because if Direwolves with the lead are the ones faltering and they give Legacy a way back in, will Legacy be aware enough to snatch that up, right? It's something that we'll continue to watch. Right now, we've seen Why Not be very active running around the map continuously. Went to top Tribush, now is in bot lane, but is being pressured every single time, or being spotted every single time that he goes to these locations, as Direwolves have kept the beat on him, have kept the read there, and Sybil absolutely cops it in that top lane.
Certainly is right now, taking a massive trade, but is actually up in CS, regardless, up by 14 right now, so feeling good. All things said and done. And as for Why Not, looking to try and navigate this map to get as many marks as possible. Another very aggressive trade as both lower and lower and lower. No flash, no mana, and no ultimate can be used here by Claire.
Yeah, I think he's looking to hit a couple of extra minions. Thorns would have given him enough mana. I think it's about 100 to use the ultimate, but not going to be able to find it just there, as yes, it is 100 mana. You can see the Kindred now moving up river. However, Sybil knows that there's limited health and mana. Claire's just way out of position.
He's in a lot of trouble right now. He may just fall on down. Going to go for the body slam first of all. Doesn't have the flash. Going to fall on down. Going to get punished. And once again, it's teams going topside and taking him down.
Just trying too hard to push that wave in. You know, we saw and we spoke about for how long how he had no resources left, but still tries to push it in. Doesn't have teleport, so he's going to have to walk of shame his way back up to top lane. I think the biggest mistake in that trade was that Sybil didn't give it or any kind of assist to Why Not. You know, might have got some experience, but at the end of the day, that was a pure solo kill off Claire's mistake. There's no other way to look at it.
That changes things around a little bit. We'll get to see now how this affects things. There's quickly checking in with bot lane. It isn't all doom and gloom, however. The Dire will still find themselves up by 20 CS here, primarily on Gunkrab's Jinx. A nice little scaling option to try and keep themselves in with a late game condition. As mid lane can also follow the same narrative. So as far as pushing power from a marksman angle is concerned, the counter picks are working out beautifully.
And we've mentioned through draft that there is a lot of AD carries that exist through both of these teams. One thing that I do actually want to highlight in contrast to that is that Shock hasn't chosen to go the full tank route and stack armor against that type of composition. He has actually gone for the phase rush full AP Gragas right now. So him falling behind is something that would be very noticeable. And Jace getting ahead on a lethality champion against that AP Gragas can snowball out of control. Now, a bit of extra context, I do have to say this every time, it's Sybil. He is a jungler, he is off-rolling. I don't know how much to expect from him in that off-roll, but if he's able to use that lead, it could be devastating for Dio.
Certainly could be, as it will no doubt cause situations and pain and panic around neutral objectives, vision and control, and ability to try and steal things away if the option presents itself. Plenty of mobility and dive potential is there for a contest of those sort of sorts. So we'll get to see what happens right now, as only what it feels like he's been on this Herald for 20 odd years now. Finally picks things up, and with the first two objectives going their way, we'll now look to try and figure out what lane would be best suited. As well, Rusty, that is a moment he wishes we didn't get to see topside. We'll go bot side regardless though, as the 2v2 breaks on out. And oh no, that's going to be starting a whole host of trouble. Gonna actually Killer Instinct forward regardless, instantly exhausted. In comes the jungler. And well, both can run away to safety. Nobody falls on down. I will sort of capitalize on mid by dropping the Herald.
Yeah, Only's just running around winning the game, you know, objective to objective. They'll place it in mid, they'll break the turret. We already spoke about this counter matchup. Well, it's clearly bearing fruit for the Direwolves. Big lead for Shock, more than anyone else. Now, looking at bottom lane, we won't get maybe much time to talk about it, but that hook from Cupcake was a mistake. This one wasn't.
This one's not, but we're not even going to get a chance to talk about that one right now because the gank takes place topside. It's a 2v2, a flash on Taunt, a chance to protect Sybil. He flashes forward, he falls down all the same. Why not being so omnipresent right now, down from bot to top to everywhere, but just not enough is available for him to contribute and to force the fight to take place after.
Yeah, he's just not as fast as Only on this Lilia, who is a fast champion, has completed the Boots of Lucidity rushed, so he's everywhere. Compare that to the Kindred, who has been trying to get around the map. He's just going to be a few seconds behind, but that's all it takes to be able to run away with it. If we look at what happened in bottom, it seems like it was just summoners used by Style, just going to be able to get out no problems at all. And they are going to be able to get that reset off here. But my point that I wanted to make was Cupcake's hook was bad, because it actually opened up the opportunity for Style to ult and made him use Exhaust. Now, if you think that, you know, if we think back to perhaps that hook hits and he has Exhaust available, we didn't see what happened. Maybe there was a kill, we don't know. But Summoner Spell gets used there just because he could hit a hook, right? Which is classic Thresh.
Yeah, every hook you hit has to be one that you go in on and showcase that, look, we can win this trade. But now it's an Exhaust they'll be without, and given the power spikes that are soon to come out here for a lot of these very mobile champions, it could be a summoner they wish they had for those later on trades. A minute ahead, and we will have our second dragon. But before that, it's all about finding priority, and that means a gank coming place mid-side. Cupcake, though, in the right place at the right time. A nice Lantern will get him out of harm's way.
Yeah, good Lantern is able to make sure he stays alive. But remember, you've got a Lucian with Flash, Cleanse, and Gale Force. So I don't know if popping Predator and taunting him is actually going to result in a kill. More than anything else, it's just pressure trying to be reinforced here by Legacy. Winter is in the most uncomfortable position possible, right? He has no turret, he has no safe space. They're trying to utilize some of the priority forced as only.
Only's looking for it right now, puts 2 members to sleep right now. That's Sybil caught out position. In comes Galio, there to protect, there to buff, and there to shield. Voidseeker hits onto one, but that might not be the target they're after. Now Winter finds himself out of position. Rel on the flank as well as Claire takes him down with the ultimate. And it's Legacy looking, Legacy hunting, but Legacy falling on down.
Yeah, Legacy not finding. Direwolves are the ones who continue to feast on this game right now. You can see a full Zony's Hourglass done here for Only as Shock just takes down Sybil. We have an Imperial Mandate Galio in mid lane here as well. That's not a Proto Belt, or Rocket Belt rather. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot too much to talk about all at once, but the real takeaway is Direwolves still in control.
Certainly are, and it's that man in mid lane who got the counter pick, who was able to punish the blind Galio, finding himself now 3-0-2. A huge lead for himself, and it already starts here, Rusty, with a face check.
Yeah, it definitely does. You know, Only tries to put them all to sleep, just runs out time-wise on Sybil, has a Galio to support him, but ML has taken most of his health in damage and is dismounted, so really provides nothing. Claire is able to get the flash body slam and just pick them apart. And during this time, of course, elsewhere, there was hooks connecting Cupcake on his Thresh, where he actually did look his best so far this split, able to find some hooks again. As Sybil, we'll see to see how he does.
That's the punishment angle right there. The fact that he jumps in for the minion wave. And Shock with experience knows this is not the jungle, this is laning, and you can't afford to do that.
I have not seen an Imperial Mandate Galio, I don't think, since the changes to that item that kind of made it less efficient as a solo laner. You know, you could go your Rylai's Imperial Mandate. We've seen that on a few champions, but that's a very supportive choice, and I'm wondering if it's because he said this lane is doomed.
Certainly could be right now, as Only might be doomed. He's in a fair bit of trouble right now, doesn't have a lantern to get himself out of harm's way. He's just going to fall on down as the stopwatch expires. Down goes the box. That's enough time to try and disengage and turn things around in favor here for Direwolves. They find one. Lanz's fight goes down. He gets exhausted, knocked out of the ultimate and taken down for an easy double. In comes Guncrab to pick up a triple, make it a third for himself, get it all rowdy, get a zap for good measure, and pick up his own double. And well, the punishment potential is real, and that's the combination between Gragas and Kindred you highlighted.
Yeah, great ultimate there from Claire, making sure that the Kindred cannot stay within that ult. Even flashes to try and get back into it, but no chance whatsoever. Too much damage supporting all of the ranks of Direwolves. Their Shock now 5-0 is putting in a hero's amount of work, but he does have a team with him this time. You know, the one issue that Shock has seemed to run into here and there is he's playing control mages, he's doing fine, but a lot of the game is collapsing around him. And even with those deaths that happen top lane from Claire, still very relevant here. As we'll see it engage onto Only, fair engage, but the teleports come through. And with that shutdown, you try your best maybe to disengage, but that's easier said than done, right? You've got Cupcake hitting those hooks, and you've got Shock showing up to the fight, just taking everyone apart.
So elusive. The fact that he had two threats from different angles and is able to live to tell the tale, utilize all that mobility, and even hang on to his cleanse, shows you how confident this man is in his ability to perform here today. And no more so than the 50 CS lead he has found, up now 5-0-3. An absolute monster performance as we get into the 16-minute mark, and Legacy find themselves now down by nearly 6,000 gold.
Mac will probably bring this up, but it is a Mountain Soul from the looks of it in this game. But more to the point, we'll most likely see a Soul in this one with the way that Direwolves are playing this out. 7,000 gold ahead. We actually may just be in for a ridiculously fast day of games, Skibby.
Yeah. Definitely feels that way. I'm not sure what's in the water or what these games have been eating, or maybe it's just a time gap difference of waking up late, feeling sleepy, and just saying, look, I've got other things to do. Let's wrap this one up nice and quickly.
It's the 5 PM wake-ups, man. They're
must
all
be
invigorated.
They certainly aren't messing around right now, and it's the power. They find an opportunity to capitalize, punish, and push, and they are sieging turrets like you would not believe. That's soon to be the third turret, and the third one going across the Direwolves.
Ah, Shirelias, my bad. I actually forgot that was built out of that item. Galio's gone for the Shirelias. That makes a lot more sense. I was confused as to why it would be a mandate, but we'll take that one back. I don't know how much it'll do, unfortunately, for them, given the game state right now. This Herald will be able to chunk out the turret and probably take it down. as the threat of an engage looming from the flanks is there.
Sibyl's locked in place bot side. He doesn't have teleport, so he has to recall and join the fight in mid as all these waves are crashing. A second headbutt that is so devastating. A huge punishment onto the mid turret to expose that inhibitor. And that's only a couple of auto shots away from falling down itself. So a massive, massive siege attempt here that Direwolves proved to be successful with.
We mentioned this through the draft, but in terms of ways back into this one, when you're behind and you have so many carries in your comp, that's hard. You can't afford to build defensive. You have to build full damage to be able to match the damage output of your opponents, but then they just have bonus stats, so you have to play better. And Direwolves, it seems like they're very clearly on form in today's game. But it's going to be easier said than done.
He's waiting in the flank right now, looking to pick up a Raptor camp, steal it away from his opposition as Legacy try to brute force their way down mid to assert themselves some priority, but get themselves set up with vision around this next dragon as well. The third one of this game, a Mountain Soul, as you say, but they're unable to pick up that turret. They just don't do enough. This is not enough threats in their arsenal right now to be scared about.
Ooh.
And that's a flash forward, and that's a flash away, and nobody is too keen about going in for that opportunity. The dragon is there. And now we might be seeing another 5v5.
Yeah, Legacy are looking like they do want to... Oh, hang on.
Oh! There's the body slam, the Everfrost, the explosive cast, why not? Pixel perfect, the very last minute there goes for his ultimate, followed up there by Galio, but that's everything invested to try and keep that one member alive, and Direwolves take the opportunity to try and find two. They'll find a third, they'll take them all down. Shock is just so far accelerated by this point in the game that it really is the double AD carry show. They're the ones to pick up the kills, but it's clear to set them up and end.
Yeah, and a clean ace there, 5-for-0 trade. Direwolves well and truly in the driver's seat. There's no way out of this one now for Legacy. 14-2 on the scoreboard. And that was the perfect engage for Legacy. And it actually starts by Claire going forwards and body slamming, but it's into a Kindred ult, so he survives. But if we see the replay, watch how good the engage is from a Melg, but just acknowledge that they're too far behind for it to matter. Because if this was an even game state when that trade happened, maybe they aced them there. Like, we don't know, because it doesn't matter. But this was, in the situation they're in, the best fight Legacy could have hoped for. Ultimately, it is not going to mean anything. And Claire, of course, will kick this one off with a flash body slam. And Melg stuns basically all of them, hits them all with his ult, but he's too fragile. The Galio tries to follow up, but because Rel dies too quickly, can't get the ultimate on top of her. That's it. That's lights out. Legacy, no chance.
Full punishment there, and the clean ace. He starts it, he ends it, he gets himself back in. He hasn't had the easiest time moving into this new role, but he's able to suddenly turn that KDA around to look a little bit more impressive in his own court. One to pat himself on the back of, and one to give the team as a whole a fair bit of confidence. 15 kills to 2 now, as the kill happens off screen, but it's not without punishment as they do take down Claire in the end. It's the first kill here for Why Not, his first in the LCO, his first at the professional level, as he makes the switch here from the amateur divisions. Not the game he'll have been hoping for to start off that campaign with.
Yeah, maybe didn't want that first kill to happen 20 minutes into this, but we can't sit here and throw any blame. There's a bunch of lane swaps, there's some craziness that's happened through the draft. He got a shutdown, but he needs to be running away. Only was trying to hunt him, but a good chilling smite will ensure that Only cannot close the distance and hit that Q.
Good to see how Legacy can look to try and test their mettle right now, because they are fast approaching an 11k deficit. All signs point to Direwolves right now. 3 dragons, that soul point soon to spawn in around about 3 minutes, and they absolutely shred this Baron. Legacy need to make a move. They have to do something, and fast.
And Mel's going to get hooked here as a deterrent as well. We're looking at junglers, but no chance.
It's just not enough. It's just not enough. He just falls on down an instant, then gets stuck in a Jinx traps as well. That adds insult to injury. Shock is huge, hitting double digits now. 10-0. They finish the Baron. They take you down. They lock you in place. And they are, well, they're just running this map rampant.
Yeah, the hook's just wide there. Maybe another kill was an option there for Direwolves, but at the end of the day, Baron secured easily and then some. So the inhibitor will follow naturally after that. Already opened earlier. Remember the Herald charges minutes before, able to set them up for this one. Here's a wave they prepared earlier, Skimmy.
Yeah.
Like a good cookbook. Direwolves should be able to close this one out with relative ease.
Seems very much a deja vu situation here as 2 inhibitors will fall on down. A final fight to end all fights. Rel respawns, Rel falls down again. A taunt goes up, but it's only onto one target. It's going to be Only, that's the sacrificial lamb, but a reset here for Jinx is enough for Gunkrab to get himself a double kill. Now they focus their attention onto taking down the Nexus itself. There's the second inhibitor, and there's Gunkrab literally living on 10% to end this game from a distance. They'll find an Everfrost and they'll find a Kaiser. They'll take him down and they'll pet their KDA just a little bit higher, because why not? The mid-flight play doesn't connect, but 22 kills to 4 at 22 minutes in will give Direwolves an all-important victory.
They may honestly try and look for another one. They're going to hook wide on, see if they can get some extra. Minions decide, no way. The game's ending now, and 23-4 on the scoreboard as that game ends with a 10-0 mid lane scoreline here for Shock. Comes up huge for them, and definitely the MVP in this game for me, Skibby. Big showing from the mid laner of Direwolves.
I mean, it proves the hype that we go into this one about how he's been the best performer in his team so far, and he compounds that argument that much further with a performance like that. And I mean, look, we can sing the praises of Direwolves all day. It was a very, impressive showing from them. And there were still, areas that they'll no doubt be looking to, work on and improve, and that will come with time. But, for Legacy, a whole host of roster shuffles. There were moments of madness, moments of brilliance. But Mac, unfortunately for them, still no dub.
Yeah, still no dub. So quite unfortunate. Obviously, you could see that the position flexing definitely did them absolutely no favors going up against Direwolves, who one of the teams with the better objective control in the league. Even though they haven't managed to get too many wins on the board, they've just been so good at controlling the macro elements of the game. And again, not only did they control the macro, but they managed to win all the micro as well. Every single fight, they just always seem to be in the right positions. And I dare say that just comes down to chemistry, playing in the positions they're comfortable in, as opposed to Legacy, who were not.
Yeah, definitely that will be a pretty big factor in there. I also think there was a fairly big draft gap looking at this one. And I do think, to be fair, a lot of that does come down to the swaps of the champions and the players. But ultimately, they win mid lane through being able to counter pick. They win through the jungle role, even though Kindred was picked into that one because their lanes that they countered have priority. Like, it just felt so easy for Direwolves as they drafted it to be easy.
Yeah, I mean, for them, this is an all-important victory. One for momentum, one to really try and start that first step. As we sort of said last year, Rusty, right? The first step that might turn into a jog, that might become a run, is this it. They found that victory already, but they need a fair few more under their belt before they really find that identity. And I think for me, it's a convincing victory. We've seen a lot of them today, right? It has definitely been a day of quick games, but games that have been very convincing in their fashion as well. It's definitely not been anything like we saw last week or even earlier in the week, where games are drawn out. But it's just an absolute bloodbath that could really turn at any moment.
Just to be clear, Mac, as well, we said that about a team who was like 0-10 and got their first victory, and we were just really excited about it. This is a Direwolves that should be significantly better than their scoreline. So if it's the first step into a sprint, it's about bloody time, is what I would say as a viewer of it.
I was expecting you to go into the, next thing is the City to Surf, next thing is the Boston Marathon, just list off all these bloody marathons. And anyway, it is what it is, but Direwolves finally finding a second W, which is something we thought they would find a little bit earlier on in the split, but, better late than never, and it's still not too late to make a resurgence and look healthy on the leaderboard, because, of course, at this point, it feels like it's a battle for 5th. I still feel like they can make it higher than that if they continue this good chemistry and continue this good team play. But everything today is just good signs from Direwolves. You have to kind of write off what's happened with Legacy because of not having Incursio, not having their main mid laner, and just forcing everyone to play all over the map.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be a hindrance, right? It's one thing to off-roll in solo queue, but a completely different beast, especially in a competitive environment where, things are just so fluid and forever changing. And, that one mistake, it can be punished, and it will be punished, as we've seen already today, right? So, I mean, who knows, really? If this is the sort of trajectory we're on, then maybe the next game is also going to be a 25-minute absolute banger that just, is blown out the water. I really don't know what to...
at this stage,
right?
I
don't know what to call anymore, quite honestly, Rusty.
It's just got to be 25 minutes. The precedent is set.
Yeah, every game has been so damn short. And look, we do have Nat down on the sidelines who had the stopwatch ready. Let Claire know that he was only in the server for under 23 minutes, which is pretty crazy. And you want to take us over to see Claire?
Well, first, I just want to say that Why Not was messaging me saying, how he's excited to see me for the post-game. And I just want to say, unfortunately, the post-game is only for winners, which is why we do have Claire joining me tonight. Claire, congratulations on that win. That's now 2 for you guys. How does that feel? Is it, you know, you guys are like, yes, this is it. We're coming into our final form.
This victory is more like a, I guess, like relief victory. It's a relief that we won this game. I think, obviously, our team has way high expectations of like how we've been playing so far, and you can see that in the reflections of what people have been saying about our team. Like everyone is kind of like saying we're really bad and all that stuff, but I think that's a result of just us having really high expectations, and it's been a really rough season so far, to be honest. I think it's going to take a while for us to come into form, but I'm pretty confident that we will be a top team. So I'm not worried about anything at all. I just think it's going to take time, and I definitely think like me role swapping is a huge contributor to that factor. What's that like?
Yeah.
Happening.
A role swap is never easy for anyone, and you know there is that long legacy for the Direwolves, so I am sure you guys have very high expectations of yourselves. But speaking of expectations, were you guys expecting the role swaps of Legacy from the top and the mid and the jungle? Did that catch you by surprise at all?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I found out like an hour and a half before the game, so it was pretty surprising. And I figured like, okay, like there's a difference between bringing in a 6th man and like just role swapping everyone, which is pretty crazy. So when I saw that happening, I was like, well, we actually talked about it in the draft plan. We were like, oh, we can draft in a certain way to force these players on these roles. Do you want to do A or Y? And then we were like, all right, let's just make sure Sybil plays top and why not is jungle, and it'll be a free win.
So you guys had essentially kind of planned it, and they like fell into this plan that you had already laid out for them coming into the game.
Yeah, so like we kind of know their champ pools, and we know that if certain champions were up, like certain players would go on certain roles, so it was pretty easy to force them to go where we wanted them to. We either did that or they were just planning to do this the whole time, which was the wrong move from them, so win-win either way.
Yeah, either way, you guys were definitely prepared. Can you tell me a little bit more about the game from your perspective? Like, how was it in top going up against Sybil?
Yeah, so I played Gragas versus Jace. Gragas level 1 kind of can't do anything, so I got pushed in, and then this skirmish happened on the top crab that, like, or actually no, Kindred invaded, so I had to move, and I wasn't too keen on it because I lost like 10-15 minions, and I walked back to lane and my wave was still pushing out, so I was really upset. I got a bit annoying in the comms, I think. Well, not annoying, but like I gave like a little passive aggressive like, oh Jordan, I need some help now because I helped you. But then you know, my team did really well. They carried. I got my items, got my 1 item power spike. Everfrost is pretty OP on Gragas, so showed up to team fights, used flash a few times, and it was a fun game.
Yeah, definitely, and we saw that with how it played out. But my last question for you is, who was the main communicator to orientate like around those objectives and the team fights?
I would say it's a team effort. Like we have a team system for who's calling what. Like everyone has a different job when it comes to the setup. But when it comes to like starting the fight, I guess like whoever has the engage tools is being the most vocal. And since I was like starting a lot of fights, I think I was talking a lot, mostly me and only, because we had the tools to start fights.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me in the post game. And again, congratulations on that win. I hope you guys just absolutely enjoy it for now.
Thank you.
There you have it. So finally, a second win on the board, and as you mentioned, a complete relief. I also just saw in Twitch chat everyone reacting to your burn nap. That was that's still sitting with me. Someone needs to get that man some ice because it's gotta hurt.
I want to put it out. I do know why not before LCO. Okay, it's not a brutal, just out of the blue thing. I promise I'm not that savage all the time, but the mans need to be told that, you know, what's going on in the league at the moment.
Well, there you go. So Nat laying down the law. And look, before the break, we do have some more from the fans, memes and trash talk to quickly show you guys at home. And so let's jump in, see what you have prepared for us. Oh, here you go. Got to get your LCO fix somehow right. There you go. So that looks like it's actually from the studio. So straight in, looks like all the production team are watching at the ready. So thank you, Wasted_Wombat. Go follow him on Twitter for that. And I'm sure there'll be another one, which we'll have a quick look at as well. So let's see. It is Peace. So, Hawaii 5-0.
So good.
Okay, I'll rate that. What are your thoughts on this one, Skinny?
Look, mate, I think that's clean. I think Peace have been really good on their social media games since they've joined, right? Pumping out content, getting the memes, and sort of making their presence known. And given the run of form they're in right now, they can afford to have fun because they've been crushing the competition. So crush the memes as well. Why not?
And
So-
sending us shirts as well, mate. I will say something here actually as well, though, Mac, because Barbie replied to this tweet, and that was abusing the alphabet was his response, because they are both 5-0, but they can say they're #1 for alphabetical reasons alone.
Oh, all right. And Nat, what's your take on this one?
I love it. I think that's just so good. I don't understand just who comes up with this stuff. Maybe I just don't have the brain for memes, but it's good.
Very well played by Peace. So, good to see some of the orgs coming out with some of the better memes as well. Let's see if that trend continues going forward in the split. But I dare say we'll send you back down to the sidelines, Nat, and we'll see you for the pre-show, the pre-game.
See you then.
That one. Yeah. Well, yeah. See you shortly.
Next game. Yeah.
And look, I think we're miles ahead of schedule. We have so many short games on. So we might have a bit more of an extended break here, fellas. So I guess, Rusty, you might be able to go make yourselves a cup of tea, and hopefully your throat will be feeling better after that.
I'm so excited for tea. You have no idea.
Well, there you go. So as Rusty goes to grab his tea and soothe his throat, it's time for a break. Ladies and gents, don't go too far. Next game and final game of the night coming up soon.
Pixel perfect, the very last minute there goes for his ultimate, followed there by Galio, but that's everything invested to try and keep that one member alive, and Direwolves take the opportunity to try and find two. They'll find a third, they'll take them all down. Shock is just so far accelerated by this point in the game that it really is the double AD carry show. They're the ones to pick up the kills, but it's clear to set them up and end. Have to do something, and fast.
And Mel's going to get hooked here as a deterrent as well. We're looking at junglers, but no chance.
It's just not enough, it's just not enough. He just falls on down an instant, then gets stuck in a Jinx traps as well. That adds insult to injury. Shock is huge.